So the next thing I gotta ask is, well, pose, clarify the defund the police definition, because the assumption out there is that it's a overall get rid of the police, and in most cases that's not true. So, Mr. Williams, can you break that down so that from your perspective, and from what your knowledge, what that means, so that you know some people can understand what that means.
Yeah, it's kind of a complex question, but because to some people it means something totally different. To some people it means just get rid of all police officers, let the community police itself. To some people it means take away funds from different programs, community programs, um, whatever fund, police fund you may have, take away funds from that and put it into the community instead of giving it to the law enforcement. Which I feel like defunding the police from whichever aspect you look at it from is a bad thing. Because if you take away the police and the community polices itself, what happens when the community is full of bad people? I mean, then you just got a chaotic situation. And even with, if you're looking at defund the police as taking funds from different programs, or if you take this money away from the programs, for one, it deters the good cops that you do have on your department or in your force or whatever. But not only that, but the defund the police, if this money is used for training to better the community and you're taking funds away from that, you're making a bad situation even worse. So I'm against defunding the police. I think a better idea would be to hold the bad police or the bad officers responsible for that for whatever they do, hold them responsible for their actions, and not just take funds away from. It could be, like I say, good police officers, and you defunding them, they're going to leave. They don't have the funds for salary or for the equipment they need. They're going to leave and go somewhere else. Then you're left with a community of bad police officers because they're going to stay. They're not going to go nowhere
Oh
because
yeah, definitely.
defunding them, they don't care. They there for a reason. It's not because of the funds. So I think it's a bad idea altogether.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with you on that um when you talk about the community police itself, because if the community police itself, we wouldn't have a lot of these issues in communities. um you have a lot of people out there with that, again, with that cowboy justice or whatever the case may be. um if communities police themselves, especially our communities, it'd be less crime. It'd be probably less negative interactions, or less interactions overall with the police. And I feel like, if you're going out of your way to defund the police or anything like that, and I guess, as Mr. Williams was saying, you take away from training. We all know that training is needed. They may need to go to the range. They may need um, uh, crisis intervention training. They may need training to assist with suicides and things of that nature. So you don't know what training they're actually getting. So if you're taking money from them, you're taking away from their training, and yeah, that can be bad. Defund them, the good ones leave, the bad ones stay, and they're like, hey, I got a job, I can do what I want to do. you know I have no oversight, nobody accountable, holding me accountable for any craziness that I do.
Um, my thought on that initially was that precincts that perform badly, towards their communities, I thought that they should be defunded. But after talking with Mr. Williams and going over his perspective on it, I get a better idea of what's actually going on. So I kind of shy away from that idea now. It probably is better to just remove the bad officers from the situations the ones who are always, bringing bad light onto that precinct or that police department, I just think that they need to be removed. Because
Yeah.
again, if you're defunding, the police departments, like you said, and you're taking the good police officers off their beats, you're making them not want to be there. And there are certain officers who love their job. They love what they do. They actually want to help people. They actually want to help their community. So taking them away from, that particular position by defunding them, I think is the wrong course of action.
And just to piggyback off of that, when I worked road patrol, one of the biggest things I dealt with was DUIs and domestic violence. And all my training classes, most of my training were for those issues, domestic violence and DUI. We all know how many lives DUIs have taken from people, family members. Without that proper training, I wouldn't be able to detect a drunk driver. Could potentially be the same person that killed your mom or your loved one, your dad. So in domestic violence, same situation. I've had so much training on domestic violence, and just thinking if it was defunded, those training programs were defunded, and I didn't have the knowledge I had on those particular issues, how with community I worked, how many people would be violated or abused, and I wouldn't be able to detect or help them because I didn't have that proper training.
Right.
So we got a comment that's from Sha. She says, "Make the funding performance based." What are your thoughts on that?
Make the funding performance based, and which that may not be a bad idea. But with that being, be the good that's performing, and not taking into consideration, maybe the bad officers not performing. But it's something about.
Definitely. I would say for a situation like that, again, if you're going off performance based, it has to be the whole police department in general, or certain precincts within that department that they're judging or making that basis off of. So,
And then another thing, when you getting funded from performance, you open the door for a lot of false performance. If I'm getting funded for how many arrests I make, or how many DUIs I get, or how many citations I write, then I'm gonna go out and just write citations for things that probably shouldn't need a citation, or people that's probably not really DUI. I'm gonna write if I know I'm getting I'm getting judged on my performance. Then hey, I'm gonna force you. I'm kind of pushing the issue for you to be drunk, and you may not be, or
right.
I may be arresting people that really don't need to be arrested because I know my paycheck is based on how I perform, how many arrests I make. So you have to be careful with the performance based.
So let me ask you this question then. I know a lot of people we're under the impression of police departments have to make a certain quota every month. Is there any truth to that, or I guess it depends on what the police department it is.
So the question was, is there any truth to police having to have a quota?
I'm sorry, I think I might have lost y'all. I think my computer went out for a second.
Yeah, the question was, is there any truth to police having to have meet a quota?
It depends on the department. Here in Georgia, I know for a while, I think State Patrol, they did have a quota. I'm not sure if they still do or not, in which most of the departments I ever worked for, we didn't have to have a quota, which I'm totally against quota because, like I said, back to my original point, it opens the door for corruption. So I'm against quotas.
I can see that.
Yeah, so let me jump in there real quick.
All right, great.
And to add on to getting onto performance based, I do think that would be a good attempt, and it does open the door for corruption and false performance and as in the military, we call it pistol whipping, um, because you know, just like in the military, you got certain you have certain tasks that you have to complete, certain quotas that you are required to make, and I know it's kind of different compared to military and police departments, but you do have a lot of situations where it's like, hey, I need such and such and such and such for me to get to the next rank or get to this next school. Yo, you wash my back, I wash yours. So I get where you're coming from that. But at the same and if it was a thing like that, and you looked at it from an overall level, I think it would create more work for the departments, and that would probably create more frustration within the departments, and those individuals will probably go out in the street and take that on the the civilian population when it comes to that.
Yeah, I agree.
So oftentimes law enforcement officers are expected to put in situations where they must take on the role of doctor, psychiatrist, caseworker, etc. Um, since they are not specifically trained in those other areas, should they be given empathy and not just shrugged off as, well, they signed up for that job?
Well, my thoughts with that is, as law enforcement officers, you are put into that role every single day, every occasion. Just for instance, there's been so many times I pull somebody over for a DUI. First thing they do, start crying and saying, "Hey, I just had a baby. My cat just died. I can't pay my water bill." And you kind of put in a position where you don't want to make this person's day worse. But at the same time, if you just let this person go and they drive down the road and run into a car full of a family and kill them, then what? Like you have to do your, um, and just give her advice. Hey, if you know you got these things going on, then don't put yourself in a position of things worse.
Yeah, I definitely, see that point of, them having to go through all these emotional roles with some of the people that they pull over. And I know it can't be an easy position to be placed in. But again, at the end of the day, they still have to do their job and, protect the civilian population. Even if it is someone, who just, have experienced something that day. Like you said, with a cat or dog dying or something along that line. But again, I think that the more training that they have, again, I don't think they should take it on to the point where some officers, they always wear the uniform, even where they take the uniform off. But mentally, I think there has to be some place where they can allow, what happened on the job to take it home.
Yeah.
There's just no place for, that type of energy, as they say, to be brought into your home. And again, it's kind of like, where we work now, we had the saying of, whatever you got going on at home, don't bring it to work. Whatever you got going at work, don't take it home. So I definitely, will see where more training as far as like psychological training would help police officers, not take on what they experience throughout their day.
Yeah, and
It could definitely be a stressful job, because as a law enforcement officer, every day you have the ability to take someone's life, whether it's legally or, which we all do, but by law, there are situations in law enforcement that you're put in that you have to make a decision whether it warrants to take this person's life or not. And, that can take a toll on a person, that's why there's a lot of, different programs that law enforcement offer to officers, to help with stresses and different things. Because you got to think, a police officer is still a person at the end of the day.
Right.
I go to work from 8 to 5.
oh, dropped out. So I want to jump in on there. I don't think that they should be shrugged off as they just signed up for the job
Hey, you
because
there?
yeah, we got
Yeah,
you back.
Okay. Sorry about that.
no problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
But yeah, just back on my point, I was saying, you go to work from 8 to 5. You take your uniform off. All these things you don't deal with during the day. You get home, you take your uniform off. You have to deal with those things. You go out, you get home, you take your uniform off, and you go out to dinner, wife or kids at the end of the day. You're a police officer. Just because you took your uniform off doesn't make you a police officer anymore. So you still having to make decisions 24/7, and that goes toll on a person. On top of that, the situation, what a police officer have to deal with in his own personal life, his home life, his wife, his kids, all his own personal stresses along with the stresses of others. It can be a lot, That's why it's not for everybody,
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to what I was saying, you can't just look at it as they signed up for the job. A lot of people say that about us in the military. Yeah, well, you signed up for it, so you need to do this, that, and other. Yeah, we signed up for the job, but you have to understand there are situations where we have to play doctor, whether it's for ourselves, our partners, or somebody out there on the street. I mean, you just can't leave them out there like that. As far as psychiatrists, we might have to talk somebody off the ledge. You never know whether it's one of our partners or someone that we're there to assist in a situation. You have to understand that even though you're in that role, you as that officer or as that soldier, you have to have empathy for that situation. And the bystanders and the naysayers, they have to have empathy for that officer, because you have to understand this is a high level stress job. No two things about it. It's a stressful job. And as far as caseworker, if you find a kid wandering on the street, what are you going to do? You have to make that child feel comfortable. So when people have that whole fuck the police attitude, and they have this whole thing about the police, and the police have this thing about people, everybody has to understand that you have a job to do, and it has to get done in order to save whatever person you're going out to save. And for a lot of those people out there who have that fuck the police attitude, and you might need the police help, you're not going to have that same attitude when they got to come and play doctor for your mother, sister, son, daughter, or whatever the case may be. You're not going to have that same attitude when they have to come and talk your mother, sister, brother, daughter, father, whatever off the ledge. You're not going to have that same attitude when it comes to them having to find your child, and they have to play caseworker and make your child feel comfortable. So all of that has to be taken into consideration, and it has to be taken into consideration that they work this job day in and day out. You don't know what they've been through. Sometimes they put things in a little box and tuck it away somewhere, and they don't even understand how much they're going through. So that has to be taken into consideration when you're thinking about that.
And just to piggyback a little further off that, like you just said, when they have this box, they get off of their shift and they put all this stuff in a box and they hold it there for months after months after months. Unlike civilians, when a civilian got something going on, a problem going on, they're going to call the police. Mm-hmm. But when a police officer got something going on, who does he call? Of course he can call the police, but it's totally different. As a police officer.
Oh, we lost him again.
Yeah. But
he's probably saying, as a police officer, and that can piggyback off of too. Who do they call? Because there's a stigma between law enforcement and the military. It's like I gotta be that tough guy.
Yeah, exactly. So
go ahead and finish what you were saying before you got.
Yeah, it's just the fact, like you were saying, that civilians call the police, but when it comes to the police having problems, their own problems, it's instilled in you that you're the tough guy. So you don't have the police to call when you got issues going on. So you have to be your own doctor, your own psychiatrist. You know, you have to deal with these things all on your own. So day in, day out, yet and still you making decisions for other people on a daily basis. It's a lot, you know, to take in. You know, it could be, but I don't feel like that should be used as an excuse to go out on your patrol beat and to violate people or you know, break the law or be corrupt or anything like that. But it is something for the civilians to take in consideration.
Right. So go ahead and drop your comments in the chat. If you want to jump on here and join on the conversation, text your name to 347-778-1082 so we can get you on the line in this conversation and hear what you got to say out there. Now, in the military, we do a periodic health assessment every year, and part of that is a mental evaluation. Your thoughts on it being required for law enforcement officers to have a yearly evaluation, and also after incidents where they have to take someone's life or even, you know, interact with someone physically where it's a drain on them mentally. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a mental evaluation is a must for officers. Because just to continue what I was just saying, you know, on the previous question, you know, you got this box that everything's built up in, and you having to hold that stuff in.
Oh, you lost them again. But yeah, you know, and so even the go further in on that, you have situations to where that buildup can make a person suicidal.
Yeah.
Make them homicidal. So go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Yeah, I apologize to the viewers. I guess I'm having trouble with my internet here. But yeah, I think mental evaluations is very important, and especially after incidents, traumatizing incidents, because I'm sure you can relate. You know, being military, you got certain incidents that happens on your job, on your daily patrol or whatever, that's can take a toll on you. And I remember one particular incident where I was put in a position. You know, luckily I never had to shoot anybody or with my duty, my weapon, or anything like that. But I've been placed in positions where I thought I was going to have to shoot somebody. And after that situation was over with, you know, I just had to take some time to myself. And I was like, hey, you know, told my supervisor, I just need some time, you know, just to gather my thoughts. And I could just only imagine if I did have to shoot that guy, you know, what would have been my mindset at that point. In a lot of departments, you back at work the next day after you just took someone's life, you know, and I think that's a bad situation. You know, I think mental evaluations is a must.
Definitely, I would definitely agree with that. You know, a mental evaluation every year is something that every police officer, you know, should be entitled to. No, I'm not sure if it happens or not, but I definitely feel like they should be entitled to that. Especially when you're on, you know, or if your patrol is in one of those inner cities or rough areas, I could just imagine what, you know, one of those officers has to go through. And again, you know, like you were saying, Broderick, that you have to make a decision in a split second. And in some situations, you know, again, if you have to pull, you know, your gun, you got to make that split second decision right there. Do I shoot this person? Yeah. Do I just keep barking out orders to them, or do I keep instructing them on what I need them to do? And if they're showing, you know, that resistance, or they're showing that, you know, I'm coming to do harm to you, I could definitely see why, you know, a police officer would need some type of, as they say, a step back to gather his thoughts and, you know, his emotions. Because when you go through a situation like that, again, where you may have to shoot someone or take someone's life, it's going to affect you. And if it doesn't affect you, then I think you definitely need to step. Once you cannot pull that bullet back.
Yeah. The thing I want to throw in there, I'm not familiar with law enforcement training as far as if they have that component in the academies or anything. But another thing that people need to take into consideration, and I know the military has started adopting this type of thing as far as being cognizant of your mental well-being. That starts before you join the police force. You have to keep that in mind um, when you join. I know when you sign up for the military, you do get a psych eval, so to speak. And what people need to understand and what people need to take serious about that is take it seriously. Don't go in there and just, you know, pencil whip it so that you can get through. Take it seriously because you may have pre-existing issues or situations in your life that can affect you if you're put in a traumatic situation. You have to understand that PTSD comes from a lot of things. You may have experienced something as a child or in your adolescent years before you join the force or join the military, and you get into one of these situations, and that will drum up those past experiences, and that may corrupt your thinking when you have to make those split decisions. It may corrupt your thinking after the fact, where you know what happened to you before, and then you have this incident, and now after the incident, your head is all over the place, and you have this stigma in your head. I can't go talk to somebody because I'm gonna be looked at this, I'm gonna be looked at that. So you kind of fall back and put that stuff in a box, and that box builds up, and it's going to explode. So you need to take it seriously and seek that help because it's out there. There are plenty of numbers out there that you can call. I think it's imperative that these agencies put that in place. A lot of places have emergency assistance programs to where you can call and you can get that help. But I think, especially with law enforcement, they need to stress that if you have a problem, if you think you have a problem, if you just need somebody to talk to, if you need time off to de-stress or anything like that, do it. Make it mandatory. For us, we in the military, we have to, sign off that we had this particular training. So therefore,
Yeah.
if you go out here and have an incident and we look at the training records and you signed off for this psych exam saying that this, that, and the other, okay, well, you lied on this paperwork. So, you're held accountable for your actions because, hey, we gave you the training, we
Yeah.
gave you the resources, and you did not take it. Understanding that every situation is different, but you have to put that in place so that people are aware of things that are going on with them. So and that goes back to making them comfortable, and I think it makes them more productive on the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.